Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Springans deck profiles. I'm really excited to do this from you guys because this deck is a really awesome XZ-based deck that plays one of the coolest field spells in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! In the form of Great Sand Sea Golganda, which pretty much lets you summon your XZ monsters from the extra deck for free, which is really crazy. So, without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name searched for every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron along with test hands. So, without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Springans Rocky. So Rocky is a really good card because what this card basically does is when this card is normal or special summon, you get to target one Great Sand Sea Golganda or a Springans monster in your graveyard except another copy of itself and add that target to your hand. And if this card is in your hand, field, or graveyard, you can target a Springans XZ monster you control and attach this card as a material. You only affect this card once per turn. You can only each affect this card once per turn. Now, all of your Springans monsters share that ability to be able to attach them as material to a Springans XZ monster in your hand, field, or graveyard, which is a really powerful effect because you're going to be sending a lot of them to the graveyard, and being able to reattach them as materials is just super helpful. We then play 3 copies of Springans Brothers. Springans Brothers is a very powerful card in this deck because it has the ability, if this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can target one Springans monster in your graveyard and special summon a defense solution, which is a very powerful effect as well, just to give you an additional Springans monster onto your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Springans Pador. Springans Pador basically lets you tribute this card to be able to target a Springans monster in your graveyard and special summon that card back to your side of the field, which is a really good effect just to be able to recur your copies of your Springans monsters. We then play 3 copies of Branger. Branger is really good as well. This card shares the ability, like every other one of your Springans monsters, to be able to attach it from hand, field, or graveyard to a Springans XZ monster. But this card can actually banish itself and another Springans monster with a different name from your graveyard to be able to add one Springans card from your deck to your hand, which is a really powerful effect because you have a lot of Springans cards that you're going to want to search with this card, which really helps out the deck a lot. I will say, as you're playing through this deck, you need to notice the attack points of your machine monsters while you're playing through. We then play a single copy of Springans Captain Sargs. Captain Sargs is just a 1-up to me now. I bumped this card down to 1 because I always see it when I need it, and I never see it when I don't want to see it. But what this card does is, if this card is in your hand, field, or graveyard, you can target a Springans XZ and attach this card as a material, and then during your opponent's turn, quick effect, then you can detach a material from that XZ monster you control, and then target a face-up card on the field and destroy that card. And if this face-up card, you can only use a previous effect of this card once per turn. It also has the ability that the monster using this card as an XZ material gains 500 attack, which is a pretty good effect just to give one of your Springans XZs an additional 500 attack. We then play a single copy of Sovereign Serpent of Golganda. The Sovereign Serpent is really good because while you control a Great Sand Sea Golganda, you can special summon this card to your side of the field, and it gains 3,000 attack points, which is a really powerful effect. And if you control a face-up field spell in your zone, you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard, which is a really awesome effect that this card will just constantly come back to your side of the field from the graveyard. But when it leaves the field, you banish it. But it also has the ability, if Great Sand Sea Golganda is on the field, would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish a monster from your graveyard instead, which is a very powerful effect just to be able to protect your copy of your field spell, because the field spell is the pivotal card of the entire deck. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom as well. The 3 copies of Ash Blossom basically just stop your opponent from touching the deck, which is very important for this particular build, to be able to just stop your opponent from going into deck and searching. We play 3 copies of Gamma as well. The Gammas help out a lot in this deck because a lot of times you won't have a monster on the field because they'll be running to the graveyard or running to being banished, which is really cool to be able to just get them off the field and make this card live all the time. But this card has the effect, the quick effect. You can special summon both this card from your hand and a Psy-Frame Driver in your hand, deck, or graveyard, and if you negate the activation of a monster effect, which is pretty good just to stop your monster effect, but you can't control a monster when you activate this effect. But a lot of your cards actually remove themselves from the field, so this card is always going to be live just about. We then play a single copy of Driver, because you got to play a single copy of Driver to be able to special summon off the copy of Gamma, which is very important for this particular deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is really good in this deck because Terraforming is basically going to search your field spell, which is, again, one of the most important cards, if not the most important card in the entire deck. So you have to play the 1 copy of Terraforming. 1 copy of Foolish Burial because every single one of your Springans is live in the graveyard because you're just going to be able to attach them as materials. So this card is really good in this deck. We play 3 copies of Great Sansi Gold Golgonda, which just basically lets you special summon your XZ monsters from your extra deck for free, because it has the ability that all Springans XZ monsters on the field gain 1000 attack, and you can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. If you control no Springans XZ monsters, you can discard a Springans card to special summon a Springans XZ monster from your extra deck, which is a really good effect, and the reason I say it's pretty much for free is because by discarding them, you can just attach them as material, so you're going where they were going to go anyways, so it's pretty much for free, which is what's really cool. And if a face-up XZ monster you control leaves the field because of a card effect, except during the damage step, then you can target a monster your opponent controls, and it cannot attack for the rest of the turn, which can really help you lock down your opponent and really help out the deck to stop a problematic monster that your opponent has from attacking. We then play 3 copies of Springans Watch. Springans Watch lets you add a Great Sansi Gold Golgonda from your deck to your hand, but if you already control it, you can add a Springans monster from your deck to your hand instead, and if you do, you get to send a Springans monster from your deck to the graveyard as well, which helps out the deck a lot just to send the exact Springans monster you want in the graveyard and be able to add a Springans monster from deck to hand. Helps out a lot in this particular deck. We then play 3 copies of Springans Booty. Springans Booty is really good too. It has the ability that if a face-up XZ monster leaves the field because of a card effect, you can target an effect monster opponent controls, and neither player can activate that effect monster's effects on the field this turn. And you can send this face-up card on your field to the graveyard to activate a Great Sansi Gold Golgonda from your deck or graveyard, which is a really awesome effect as well, because basically you're playing like 10 copies of Great Sansi, because your copy of the Springans Booty can grab it, your copy of Watch can grab it, your copy of Terraforming can grab it, so there's essentially 7 searchers right there, and then Great Sansi itself can actually be drawn regularly, so you're playing 10 copies of that card essentially, which is really insane. We're then playing my surprise tech card of this deck, which is 3 copies of Machine Duplication. Now, as you guys have watched this video, I did say pay attention to the attack points of your monsters. So the really cool thing about this deck is your copy of Brothers has 300 attack, your copies of your Pador has 0, and your copies of the Branger has a 500 attack point. So all 3 of those are actually targets for your Machine Duplication, which is really cool to be able to just special summon 2 additional copies of those monsters from your deck to your side of the field to be able to go into additional XZ plays to go into some really powerful boss monsters in this deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps, because we play a couple of traps in here. So we're playing 2 of the new traps that we got from Dawn of Majesty, which is a really powerful trap card. I'm just playing 2 of it because it's a continuous trap, and it's pretty easy to search this card as well. But when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can return a Springans XZ monster you control to the extra deck, and then apply one of these effects to negate the activated effect, or you can special summon a level 8 monster from your graveyard, which is a pretty powerful effect just to be able to summon a card from your graveyard as well. But the main effect is going to be negate the effect. But the effect of this card also is if face-up XZ monster you control leaves the field because of a card effect, then you can make all monsters your opponent controls currently lose 1000 attack until the end of this turn. Even this card leaves the field, and you can only affect this card once per turn. This card is an extremely powerful card to be able to just instantly negate a card and reduce a monster's attack by 1000. I would have said this card would have been fine just with the negating effect, and that's really a good effect. But being able to special summon a level 8 monster from the graveyard as well, and also giving you the ability to reduce the opponent's monster's attack by 0 is a really awesome effect. We then play 3 copies of Torrential Tribute, because the majority of your Springans XZ monsters are running away from the battlefield anyways and diving under the Great Sand Seas of Gold Golgonda. So this card is really powerful to be able to just blow board, and then your copies of your Springans Exablower will special summon themselves back to your side of the field. And even if you hit 1 or 2 of your copies of your Springans monsters at the cost of destroying your opponent's entire field, it's fine because they can just attach themselves as materials to your copies of your Merrymaker and your Exablower. So you have a lot of plays with your copies of Torrential in this deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Springans Exablower, which is a very unique card, I have to say, out of all the cards in this entire deck. It has the ability that you can choose one of your opponent's monster zones or spell and trap card zones and detach any number of materials from this card. And then if you do, destroy the same number of cards in your opponent's that your opponent controls in the chosen zone, and then its adjacent monster zones and spell and trap card zones, which is kind of basically like an AoE effect in a RPG game or in a video game. So basically, for example, what you would do is you would destroy all the cards in this particular zone, and then you could destroy the spell and trap card zone below it, and then you could also destroy a monster beside it, or a monster over here beside it, or the extra monster above it, or the monster beside it, depending on the amount of materials that you have to detach, is depending on how many times and how many cards you can actually pop against your opponent, which is a very interesting effect. I love the way this card works. It's very unique. We then play 2 copies of Merrymaker as well. Merrymaker is a very interesting card as well. This is going to be one of the first cards you're going to summon in a duel. And what this card does is if this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you get to send a Sprigans monster from your deck to the graveyard. And then during your opponent's main or battle phase quick effect, you can banish this card into the end phase, which is the same effect as Explorer shares with this card. And it also has the ability that it provides itself back to your side of the field during the end phase. And then if you banish this card with 2 or more materials on it, you can also send a fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard that lists a Fallen of Albaz as a material, which is going to get you a search because you're going to send your copy of Iron Dash to the graveyard. We then play 2 copies of Giganta X. Giganta X has a really awesome effect that you're going to be able to detach a material to add a level 4 lower machine monster from your deck to your hand, which can help out a lot in this deck, but the reason I'm playing 2 of it is because of one of the boss monsters we're playing later on in the deck. We're playing a single copy of Drill Driver, which you're usually going to use this card to overlay on top of a copy of Merrymaker, because your copy of Great Sandsea Gold Golgonda has the ability that you're going to want to basically summon out a copy of your Merrymaker for free by just discarding a card, essentially, which is going to end up pretty much being for free, and then summon a copy of Drill Driver on top of it. Because it's not having a monster on the field anymore that's a Sprigans monster, you can use your copy of Great Sandsea Gold Golgonda again the following turn to get you another monster, which is pretty good. And plus, your copy of Drill Driver is also 2,500 attack point monster, so it's a really powerful card as well. We then played a single copy of F-Zero. F-Zero is pretty good in this deck too, because you're going to be using this card to go into one of our really big boss monsters, and that's a single copy of F-Zero Utopic Draco Future. Now, Utopic Draco Future is a ridiculously powerful card in this extra deck, and it's a ridiculously powerful XZ card in any deck. And basically what you're going to do with this card is you're going to use your Sprigans card, the copy of Great Sandsea Gold Golgonda, summon out a copy of Merrymaker. Merrymaker will send something from deck to graveyard, and once you can get 2 more monsters on the field, you'll summon out a copy of your Giganta X, detach a material, get you another search from the deck, and then use these 2 monsters to go into this card, because all it requires is 2 monsters that have the same rank that are not number monsters, and neither of these are number monsters, so you can actually go into F-Zero and then immediately throw a copy of Utopic Draco Future on top of it. We then play a single copy of number 97. Number 97 is a really powerful card in this deck as well, because you're just going to be able to detach a material from this card to be able to special summon from your extra deck a copy of either number 38 and use it as a material to summon out your copy of number 100, or vice versa. You can use your copy of number 100 to make another copy of number 38, which is a really powerful effect for this particular deck to just go into those really, really awesome plays. This negates spells. This comes out as a 9,000 beat stick, which is really, really cool depending on how many XZ monsters you have, because it gains 1,000 attack depending on the rank of the monsters that you have on the field. Usually it's about 9,000. Sometimes you'll get it up to like 17,000. It just depends, because if you have an Explorer plus a number 97 on your field, that's 16 ranks on the field plus its own of 1, so that's 17,000, which is pretty good. We then play a single copy of Psyframe Lord Omega, which can rip cards out of your opponent's hand. With the driver that you're playing in the deck, this card comes in really handy to rip cards out of your opponent's hand. And then I played just a single copy of Iron Dash. Iron Dash is a great card in this deck, but I just play the 1 copy of it because Merrymaker does send it from deck or extra deck to the graveyard, and the only important effect of this card is if this card is sent to the graveyard, you get to add it from your deck to your hand, or special summon a Sprigans monster from your deck, which is the really good effect about this card, but you just need it as a 1-up because you're never going to summon this card in this deck. It's basically just here to send a graveyard off of Merrymaker. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. It's a really fun deck to play around with. I highly recommend that if you guys have never played with Sprigans, you should definitely try it out. It's a very budget deck to pick up because the most expensive card the last time I checked was Explorer, and I think it was like $2, which is not that bad. The rest of the stuff was really, really cheap because they're all printed as commons and supers, and so it's a really budget deck, to be honest with you guys. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.